My name is Enda Murray, and I'm the director of the Irish Film Festival. I'm delighted to be joined tonight by Richie Conroy, who is the writer, and Darragh Humphreys, who plays Fran Costello, the lead role in the hilarious comedy FRAN THE MAN, which has just opened the Irish Film Festival. Richie August Darragh, fáilte roh chuig an Austral.
Míle buíochas.
Tá géal go fé a flúiseach ag an Bert nach bhfuil. Bert acu. My unfair. Unfortunately, the Australians don't speak Irish, so we're doing this in English. Gael go brista now, Bela Clista. Darragh, couldn't afford to on start. Son Leroux gone on show. Sorry, how did you get this? How did you get this? Get involved in this project in the beginning? Tell us.
Well, I owe everything to my colleague on the line there, and my good friend Richie Conroy. We made a TV series in 2009 called FRAN Assistant Manager, and we made 2 series of that. And Richie and his brother-in-law and our good friend Mark Hodkinson were the co-writers of that series. So it really is going back that far. The character and my involvement with it is going back as far as 2007 when we filmed the pilot episode. And then when we had the pilot ready to go, we were able to line up a broadcaster, which at the time was Setanta Sports, who also had a sister station in Australia at the time. There was a Setanta Australia and channel, and they were our first broadcaster, and they were the ones that showed a bit of faith in the project and had enjoyed the pilot. So yeah, that's my involvement. Stems entirely from the faith that the lads had in me, and the prospect of playing the character. They offered me the opportunity. Almost 20 years ago now. When I say it, like, yeah, it would be more than 18 years ago since we filmed the pilot. The pilot was June 2007, so it's gone back that far. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you stuck with it, Richie. Where does the idea for FRAN THE MAN come from? You must be involved in sport yourself, are you?
Yeah, I am, and I suppose when I was a kid, I played soccer. I played it to quite a good standard all my life. I just gave it up. In fact, well, it gave me up. But for a long time, I was a goalkeeper for my local team, and I always thought it was funny. Like, we'd be sitting there in the dressing room, and the manager and the assistant manager would come in. And the manager obviously had a lot of stuff to do, but I never really could figure out what the assistant manager did. Like, he put up the nets and he filled the water cup bottles and he lined the pitch. But like, what so. And they would say the same thing to me every week. They'd be like, "No, plenty of talking out of you, Richie. I want to hear you out there." And I'm like, "Okay, grand. Let us just go out and play our game, will you?" So met these kind of characters, still do, and there's something kind of universal about the guy who gives of his time, looks for nothing back in return, puts on the tracksuit, and suddenly becomes a sort of a focal point of a club, So that's where the character kind of came from,
Great. And for you, what was the most satisfying thing about putting this film together?
Just the talent. Like, you've just seen the film. I mean, the talent on screen. Darragh is incredible in it, but this time around, he's joined by some of Ireland's like leading lights. Ardal O'Hanlon, Deirdre O'Kane, Amy Huberman, and of course the nice cameo from Eddie Marsan. So it was incredible to just see what was a very low budget kind of mockumentary on a sports channel elevated to a cinematic experience for everyone. And it enjoyed a 6-week run in the cinema here in April and May, which was amazing, So yeah, it was very, very satisfying. I just saw an interview the other day with a writer, and he was explaining how he had a film with Amblin, which is Steven Spielberg's company, and even that film couldn't make it to the cinema. it eventually just went straight to Netflix. So it's really important not to lose this cinema experience that's been around for so many decades. It's really important that we still make comedies and dramas for grown-ups, and not just the kind of tentpole Marvel type movies. That there's a bit of variety. And well done to you and your festival for bringing these films up.
I was going to say, and for people to enjoy the cinema experience in Australia with FRAN THE MAN, and come and see it. Fran, or Darragh, what was the most enjoyable thing for you making the film?
As Richie said, first of all, I would say all of the talent that was secured, and that was principally brought about by the strength of relationships that the director Stephen Bradley had cultivated over the years. He had worked with almost all of those people. Obviously, Deirdre O'Kane, his wife, and I think also what was very satisfying was that Stephen was recovering from an illness, so it was his first feature film back since recovering. And it was nice to know that was his first involvement. He had directed the Amazon TV series Last One Laughing, which was a Canadian concept originally, and the Irish one, I believe, was the second iteration of it. So it was very satisfying to see Stephen get back in the saddle and do what he does best, and all of the talent that he secured. I mean, it was such a gift to be able to just for him to be able to say that he was going to contact this person and that person, and that they've already got on board. And Ardal, I know that Richie was keen to have involvement from Ardal O'Hanlon from an early stage, knowing what a fine actor, a fine comic actor Ardal is, and also the fact that he's a sports fanatic and a football fanatic as well. So I think Richie knew that he'd be a perfect fit for it, and Ardal was relatively early. He had guaranteed his participation in it. So, I mean, all of those, to have screen time with all of those, and Eddie Marsden, needless to say, that was a really big deal, because I mean, for me, he would be the best actor in the world as far as I'm concerned, and for him to just come in fly in for a few hours was really extraordinary experience. So I would say, all of those things, the culmination of all of those things was what made it extra special and enjoyable, I'd say.
So I'm going to come to Eddie Marsden in a minute, but Richie, you mentioned about playing soccer, and I'm not sure what your soccer background is, but I was going to ask you, do you think FRAN THE MAN would have worked in a GAA kind of environment, or is it just the Dublin thing about Dublin and Dublin soccer?
I think definitely this particular character is very much found in soccer clubs in Dublin, and not just Dublin. Like I live in Kildare now. There any sort of soccer club would kind of the Garrison game, as Darragh calls it. I think if we were to do a GAA version, it would still work, but it would be a different type of character. But there is something quite lovable about the volunteer who goes to these different clubs, and gives of his time or her time to enable other people to play. Like, there's something kind of paradoxical about it, that he himself isn't out playing, but he's enabling other people to play. And oftentimes these people are the quiet unknowns of clubs, So what we wanted to do was kind of shine a light, and obviously there's comedy, but there's humanity there as well. That, like, there's a person behind the guy who marks the football pitch, or who ensures the kits are washed. So that's kind of, so yeah. I mean, I think it works in Australia. Like, I'm sure there's characters like that in Australian clubs up and down the country, American, English. It's a universal type of character, really.
Darragh, did you have a soccer background, or you a man?
No. Like Richie, I'd be a soccer man all the way. That was what I played at schoolboy level and all of that. Do you mind me asking you, Enda, is that a Drogheda accent? Because I think Fran could have worked just as well in Drogheda.
Very well spotted. I've been over here 30 years. How'd you know I was from Drogheda?
No, I tell you, it's quite recognisable. No, I played on my schoolboy football in Glebe North in Balbriggan. So we'd sometimes we played Drogheda boys in pre-season friendlies. So Drogheda boys would have been more at the business end of things than we were, you know. So no, I think Fran, even though the film is a bit Dublin centric, he could have been found anywhere, and he is found anywhere. No, I enjoy GAA and athletics as well, but no, for Richie and I, our soccer is our first love, and consequently, I'd say that's how it found its way into the film.
I was going to ask about Eddie Marzan. How did you pitch the project to Eddie? I'm guessing it was the big fee that got him on board.
Oh, unfortunately, there was no big fee to dangle in front of him. No, again, something that came about entirely based on all of the friendships that Stephen Bradley has cultivated over the years, and a pure fluke. I met Stephen in a bit more of an informal setting. He said, "Like, why don't we go out for a couple of drinks and I'll just chat to you? Less shop talk and more about, what makes you tick and what kind of films you like and that kind of thing." And much as Richie and I both like comedy, I think my go-to kind of films would be a bit more kitchen sink, Ken Loach and Mike Lee and Alan, that kind of thing. And so Stephen said to me, he said, if there was one standout performance from the last 30 years that always remains with you, what would it be? And just purely coincidentally, I could have said one of maybe half a dozen, but I said that one that has always remained with me was Eddie Marzan's performance in Gangster #1 in the Paul McGuigan film. And Stephen just immediately said, well, Eddie's a friend of mine, and they used to live on the same street in Chiswick in London, and their kids were the same age. They had a boy and a girl, each of the same age, and they used to socialise and have pizza parties and all that kind of stuff with the kids. So he had formed a very strong friendship with Eddie over the years. So it's just a pure coincidence. And Stephen said, I think Eddie will do me a favour. I'll contact him tomorrow or the next day. And that was it. And he said, hey, is there anybody else or any other performances? And I was kind of thinking, like, well, unless you're having breakfast with Brando as well the whole time, then, but Eddie will do perfectly fine for me. So it was really, really extraordinary and a pure coincidence, just a pure fluke that I happened to mention him and that he was a friend of Stephen. But really, like, Eddie came over, like, for the Dublin International Film Festival. He flew over to record a scene in Dunleary. We had him for about 3 or 4 hours, and all of that week he had been flat out promoting the Amy Winehouse film. But it was a Thursday, and he had the Thursday boxed off, and no matter what other commitments he had, he was committed to facilitating us. And then he came over and did a Q&A session at the day of the premiere at the film festival. He performed a Q&A session at lunchtime that day. So he was just so accommodating, but it was all I know that it was all based on just how much he thinks of Stephen and Deirdre.
Brilliant. Richie,
and the script, of course, it was brilliant as well. Like, that's why he wanted to do it, Darragh, right?
That's why Eddie wanted to do it.
Yeah.
Of course
Like,
it was.
You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like, let's, and I'm only joking.
Richie, I was going to. You've been writing a lot, Australia, writing a lot in Irish recently, and do you want to tell us a little bit about what some of the shows you've been doing in Irish?
Yeah, I did a show called Craw, which has just been shown in Australia as well. I should know what it was. Is Acorn? Do you get Acorn TV? Is that the thing you can't get? No. Okay, I'll find out what it is. But that's a 6-part crime drama. I managed to get a little bit of soccer in there too, and But prior to that, I've done a lot of shows in Australia as it happens. I worked on Blinky Bill a while back, and Drop Dead Weird, Foreign Exchange, Skinner Boys. Yeah, so I've a nice connection with the Australian film and TV industry as well. So it's great that the film is getting shown over there.
And I was going to ask you about writing Oscailga. Because you know, you've both got the connection with Irish. Darragh as a mentor, as a teacher, and yourself as a writer. You know, and I've just been reading Darragh O'Shida and Mother Folklore and Crack Baby. You know, what do you reckon to the health of the Irish language at the moment? Does it get any easier, Darragh, teaching?
Well, I'm hoping that that the likes of kneecap will help it. But I mean, people will say, like, you know, oh, it's cool now. But Richie and I would say that it was always cool. You know, it was just a matter of everybody else making up ground catching up exactly. But no, Richie and I did the same degree in Trinity College. We both did early and modern Irish, and I had to repeat first year. I had to repeat the early part of it. So really, I was just
it was just her.
I was just warming the place up for Richie. That's all, and so that's where the Irish connection comes from. So I just nipped up to the Helix Theatre in DCU here to take the Zoom call. But my school is right next door on Collins Avenue.
But there's a big revival of
Richie,
in Ireland, you know, and I think the last statistics were 10% of children are getting educated through Irish. My own kids are all attending Irish language schools, so their entire schooling is through Irish, you know. And like, I think Darragh and I would love to find a project that we could do together, Oscailga as well, you know, because it's the sort of under Kneecap and on Colleen Kuhn and these sort of films that are proving that the language can travel all around the world. Whereas before we may have had a little bit of a kind of parochial view of the language, which has been proven to be not the case, you know.
Yep. So I was going to ask you about what's next. Darragh, you got any projects lined up? Or?
Well, I'm just bedding back into the classroom this week. Like, you know, we're not even at full capacity yet. So no, but I have an agent for the very first time now. I had to get an agent, you know, in the run up to the film. So yeah, I'm certainly auditioning away and self taping and all of that. And no, I just regard to what Richie said there. I mean, it really does show you, like, if the writing is good enough, as you'll see in if you happen to see Craw, if the writing is good enough, then the medium of the film, the language that the film is presented in really doesn't matter. It's the storytelling and the writing that gets any of it over the line. And then, of course, there's the all of the funding that BBC Northern Ireland has. So Craw was a joint BBC Northern Ireland and TG Carr project, and consequently, then it ended up being on BBC Three, which is the not just the regional BBC, but the one that's available to people all across the UK and further afield. So there's that aspect of it as well. There's the revival down here, and then a very very vibrant one in the 6 counties as well. So it's only going to get better, and it's only going to get stronger, I think.
Brilliant. And Richie, we're big fans of Father Ted over here. So anything to do with Ardal O'Hanlon, and I heard you've got a show, possibly Brouhaha. Is that nearing completion, or what stage is that at?
Well done. That's some good research. That's I'm developing that at the moment with Ardal. So it's a book he wrote a couple of years ago, a novel. It's a sort of crime, dark comic kind of crime novel. So I'm adapting that for the screen. and it's good. It's really, really good. Like Ardle's writing is fantastic. So you'd really enjoy it as somebody from Drogheda, because it kind of taps into that sort of almost like border county stuff, you know. It's brilliant. So I'm working on that, and then I've got a new show coming out on BBC Two, called Leonard and Hungry Paul, and that is starring Alex Lauter, who was recently seen in the Alien. Oh God, what's it called? It's some Alien thing on Disney Plus. The Aliens, you know, the Alien, James Cameron, you know, all that kind of stuff. Some TV series, and then so I can't think of her name from Dairy Girls. She's in it.
Jamie
Lee, yeah, sorry, Jamie Lee O'Donnell, and then there's a couple of other famous kind of people in it, so that's going to be showing in November, I think, and it'll probably make its way across the waters to you guys as well. It's good crack.
I'm afraid we've run out of time. I'd love to chat for longer, but the clock's beating us. But Goramila Maigov for FRAN the Man, and delighted to get the comedy. There's a lot of serious films coming out of Ireland, but it's great to get the comedy and get the laughs. So Goramila Maigov Shlanagas Bannock.
Goramila Maigov.